Well, hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to another Wednesday in Flat Rate World. And as usual, I'm here with my buddy, Kenneth Edmonds. How are you, Ken?
I am fine. And I'm actually here sitting on the beach, well, in my home office. The beach is imaginary behind me, but I'm looking forward to my next trip somewhere.
Yeah, well, it was really fun. I know that one of the shows that we did, you were actually, I think you've done a couple of cruise ships now, and it just astounds me, to think how far we've come technologically, that we can do these things literally no matter where we are. So if you're on a beach or on a cruise ship, anywhere, right? Me in a home office right now, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. So we've talked a little bit about places I've done the show from. Where's everybody watching from today?
It's one thing we always love to do. So remember, folks, if you're watching on LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube, you can leave your comments in the comment section, and we will see them live and in person, and we will actually post them up here as we go along. So let us know what parts of the world you are in from. And I know that always we have Canada and the U.S., Ken, because I'm in Canada and you're in the U.S.
Yeah.
But our guest today on the program, one is also from Canada and one is from the U.S. So we're still shooting 50-50. I'm not sure how that works, but there it is. One of the topics, Ken, I know it's not a laughing matter or a fun one, but certainly these supply chain issues have been absolutely bonkers, right? And as I've mentioned before, my wife is in retail, so she's been impacted by it as well. So it's not just people with printers and copiers, it's people that are trying to move any kinds of goods, right? But certainly anything technological, it's been so compounded. And between these calls that we do together, conversations with dealers, the stuff that I'm doing for Tiger Paw with the top 100, I mean, it is a heavy topic of conversation, right? And I'm really glad today. I thought it would be really interesting to just have a couple of dealers in that are actually living through this. It's one thing for people like us that are, that are hosts and interact with the Office Equipment Channel, providing services, but, to hear it right from, dealers, what's going on, and, just to see how they're, adapting with their businesses, right?
Yeah, so, and we got some smart guests on, which is nice. Somebody's got to make up for us.
We do. So remember, if you're watching from some other part of the world, I just caught that joke in. Clearly smarter than us when it takes me 10 seconds to catch a joke. But
what did he say?
Without further ado, I'm going to introduce our guests. So one we've had on the show before. I'm going to add Mr. Jeff Bendix. How are you, buddy?
How's everybody today?
Good.
Oh, no complaints at all. Yeah.
Good to see you guys again.
I know. Great to see you. And I really appreciate you always stepping up, not just in this program, but, for anything. The video that you helped me do for iTex for my presentation went off really well. And I know that other dealers that were there were really happy to actually have the voice of the dealer in that presentation. So it wasn't just a talking head like me. So thank you once again for that.
Good. Happy to help.
Yeah. And we've got another guest, and this is the Canadian, eh? So Rob Farrell, welcome, eh? How are you?
I'm good. Good morning, eh? Thanks, Wes, and morning, guys.
Good morning. Yeah, really appreciate you coming on. We do these live streams every Wednesday, and we try and hit on some things that are, that are topical. And as per usual, I like to surprise people with short notice. So thank you very much for, making the time to be on the program today. But I can't go anywhere without talking with dealers and partners and other people about these supply chain issues that are, impacting our channel, right? So one of the things I was hoping to do, we're actually going to get quite a different perspective here because we have two very different types of dealerships in two very different locations in the world, right? So Jeff, maybe for those that don't know you, just give an introduction a little bit about where your business is located, the kinds of things that you're doing, and then I'll move over to Rob to do the same.
Sure. Well, I'm located in South Dakota. We operate in multiple different states, but our home base is here in Watertown, South Dakota. Started out in 2000s. We just finished up 2 decades in business. So it started August 2000 as a toner cartridge remanufacturer. And we still do reman toners to this day. In 2004, I shifted the focus of the company to managed print when that was, starting to come upon its own. And then in the mid-2010s, then I added or built out another arm of the business for managed IT or managed cybersecurity services, which is approaching about 50% of our business now is cybersecurity.
Yeah, and that's very exciting to see. And we've talked about, sort of diversification, how you and I knew each other. We've known each other long enough from early enough in the managed print days, but also when you started doing your security services and stuff. And it wasn't even fashionable back then. I mean, you were definitely way ahead of the curve. So congrats on that. And Rob, we've known each other for quite a few years now too, which is kind of crazy. On the Canadian side, some of the work that I was doing over at Laser Networks and Pitney Bowes. So why don't you give us some background on you and SmartPrint for those that may not be familiar?
That sounds great. Thanks, West. So SmartPrint, we are actually celebrating 35 years in business this year, which is amazing. So
Congratulations.
Yeah, it's crazy how the years fly by. I've been in the industry and other businesses and manufacturers and software companies over my career, but I've been with SmartPrint for what's about 9 years now, coming up on 10 pretty quickly. So it's amazing how time flies. And but we're really 100% focused on managed print services and pretty heavy on the solutions that wrap around managed print. And we've had that focus for about 20 years now. So and we're based in Toronto, Canada, and we've got some satellite offices across the country and really support a lot of the mid-market and sort of lower side of enterprise across Canada that often takes us into the US for support and that sort of thing as well. We even have some clients that have tapped us to support them globally with our great network of partners that we develop through the manufacturing partners that we've got great relationships as well.
Well, that's great. And certainly from a managed print perspective, always admired you guys and how cutting edge you were with wrapping solutions around everything that you did, right? And in this industry, sometimes just saying managed print isn't enough. There are a lot of players out there that the only thing they really manage is an invoice.
Yeah.
And you guys do a great job. Both of you guys do. So super happy to have some true managed print providers on the call today. Let's jump into this. So one of the reasons that I invited you guys in, obviously, was that we're still moving through these supply chain challenges. I was on a call last week, and some pretty big important people on the channel that have been sort of researching some of the supply chain issues with the OEMs, etc. We're not confident that we're anywhere near being out of the woods yet, right? So first of all, maybe let's talk about your current experience, how it's impacted your business state. So Jeff, maybe you can start.
Sure. Being that we have multiple lines of service, different than Rob, so we have a little bit different experience depending on what particular line that is. Like with computer hardware, depending on the brand, like some brands you just can't get at all. We haven't been able to get for close to a year, while other brands we can get, but they're maybe their production cycles are a little delayed. So where we could get something in a couple of days, it might be a week or two. So that's not terrible. We've been able to manage that fairly well just by, working a little bit more tightly with our customers, which is never a bad thing. Certain other things like firewalls are, again, by brand, are very delayed. We've had a little bit of supply disruption with like OEM toner. It hasn't been terrible, but we've had some of our MPS clients get kind of close to not having enough supplies, but we've never officially had anyone down. So thank the Lord for that. Print hardware has been difficult to get, especially certain lines of hardware. I know we've had some particular models of HPs on back order for like 4 months. Literally yesterday, we got 2 different trucks in from 2 different vendors. So we kind of got stocked up a little bit yesterday, but yeah, so just depends on the line. We're definitely feeling it, but like I said, it's brought opportunities to just have a little tighter conversations, a little more strategic planning with our customers. Sometimes we need to bring in a little Band-Aid solution just to keep them running, but we've managed our way through it.
Okay. And how about you, Rob, up in Canada? What have the supply chain, challenges looked like? How have they been?
Yeah, well, we've had some similar experiences, but I'll tell you, one of the things we focus a lot on with clients and prospects is helping them with digital transformation, and we haven't had any challenges with software availability.
Right. Yeah, it's amazing how that works. No chips.
That part of the business has been great. But I would say, I'm pretty grateful. We've got a pretty deep bench in the operations team, and so we've been doing a lot of work because we've had very similar challenges where I'm, first comment is on the sort of service parts and, maintenance kits and all of that preventative work we need to do, as well as even supplies like toner supplies, ink, all that kind of stuff. We've been doing a lot of analysis with all the data we have in our systems and looking at shipment times and that sort of thing from distribution to our end user. And so we've been kind of moving the dials a little bit so that, our algorithms in our systems work on, in our just-in-time system works on sort of days remaining of supply or service part and also end of life, percentage to end of life. And we'll ship automatically based on that algorithm to make sure they never run out. And we've been tweaking those metrics a little bit just to make sure, because the supply chains are slowed. And similar to Jeff, we haven't had a challenge where someone's run out of supplies yet or anything like that, but we're watching it very closely. Like the team's very focused on this. And we're doing what we need to do to make sure our clients are supported. On the hardware side of things, again, very similar. We haven't had any big issues yet. Our major partners, we have two main partners that have come through for us. We've had, I think, just the same as Jeff, great communication with the customer so that their expectations are met. It has really helped us, like right off the bat. And good communications with the manufacturers and distributors to make sure that we get the product on time. But this is not easy. Like there's a lot of moving parts in the background to make sure this happens. One of the things that I think that has saved us a little bit is that we typically focus on enterprise level products, and for our two main suppliers, manufacturer partners, they have been we've been able to get the product shipped into Canada for us on time to meet a lot of these project needs. So, hey, this is a little bit day to day, like you said, Wes. I think we're not out of the woods. And
interested to have this conversation a month from now, right?
You got it. It might get a little worse before it gets better from what we hear from our manufacturing partners, just because of the supply chain challenges globally. And boy, Vancouver, Canada is in a bad situation. It's really sad to see what's happened with all the flooding, and that's going to affect things. We're going to see the tail of that affect things as well. So we're just doing our best to stay ahead of the curve on this stuff.
Yeah, for our American viewers that may not be as familiar with Vancouver, Canada, there has been some impact in the Northwest in the U.S. as well, but certainly nothing like they've experienced up in Abbotsford and that area, right? The supply chain was completely shut down. And the weather keeps moving in. So you talk about one atmospheric river, then there's another one, right? So beyond kind of chip shortages and those kind of things, that we're really testing our just-in-time capabilities for that stuff, right? It's really, I don't know if fascinating is the right word, but it is something to watch, right? And for you guys as dealers to actually live through, right? So I thought of a couple of other things to ask you there. And one is, you both mentioned this, is that obviously working very closely with your customers, that it gives you that opportunity to really talk with them. And, I really like what you said, Rob, about, software. You haven't had any issues with software and kind of these, digital workflows, right? Helping them to maybe do some things in different ways. And I think that's important, right? That it sounds to me like you're both saying is that having that open dialogue with the customer has been so critical in managing and maybe even shifting some of their expectations, right? Is that fair?
Yeah, I think that's fair, and also our human nature allows a lot of us kind of fly a little closer to the seat of our pants. Especially from our customer standpoint, they say, "Oh, hey, I want something right now," and they expect us to just have it there. And those expectations have been tamed a little bit. That I've got to do a little bit more planning and strategic projects and upgrades and things of that nature. So there's always a silver lining if you look for it.
Yeah, and I think for the sales reps, that must be difficult sometimes as well, when they think they have found some of that low hanging fruit, and you're like, well, hold on, we have other people we got to satisfy right now, so get in line, right? And how about you, Rob? Same sort of thing, that the customers, they've been pretty open and receptive?
Yes, sometimes customers are kind of demanding, and when we say, "Wait a minute, you know, let's talk about what we're really dealing with here with supply chains and all that kind of stuff," and they quickly recognize that, oh yeah, it's affecting print devices too, and that sort of thing. So I agree. It's just kind of trying to get ahead of the curve. Usually we're so confident that we can deliver on anything in normal times, and so it's a bit of a shift. And I would say we've actually had to, for some large hospitals that we deal with, where they've just had a significant requirement for new hardware in some areas, we've had to switch manufacturers, because we had to give them what was in stock that could do the job. So they've transitioned from one manufacturer to one they haven't worked for, and it's worked out okay. But we're doing what we can to make sure we support them. And
I love to hear that, though, that they're still giving you the business, even though you're coming up with, alternatives for the hardware that maybe you don't traditionally carry, right?
yeah,
I love
absolutely.
that kind of customer trust. And that was actually going to be one of the other questions that I've written down was, are you winning some business maybe that you weren't before because others are having a harder time, sort of satisfying what they should be doing for their customers, right? And I know that's not the friendliest of questions, but it's a reality, right? Like, are there opportunities out there that the supply chain, challenges are actually creating?
And do you want me to answer that first?
Oh, either one, yeah. Or both.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jeff.
We're definitely picking up business, but I don't know that it's directly related to just supply chain, or maybe the last straw that kind of broke the camel's back, if you will.
Okay.
Dealing with poor service or poor issues before. That was just one more excuse. So I think it's a little bit more of that maybe push some customers over the edge to our way.
Yeah, I really like what you say there, is that customer relationships are obviously a lot deeper than, just how fast they can get things, right? So, and how about you, Rob? Are you saying that straw that broke the camel back, is that evident out there?
I think it's very similar. We've been lucky. We've gotten through this whole COVID to this point very well, and we're coming through it strong as a company. And so we've picked up some clients that just had to make some switches because of I think lack of support and that sort of thing, or other, potentially a competitor who's struggling. That's probably the same kind of thing, that straw that broke the camel's back, where they just said, we got to make a switch. Like these times are a little bit too critical. And some of those have been in healthcare, actually, where it's just essential that they deliver. And so we're pretty heavy in that vertical, and that's been good for us. And I think that I just finished a business review workshop with one of our large financial clients before I jumped on this call with our sales team and solutions team. And one of the it was kind of interesting, because some of the feedback that they had, and Jeff, you've probably had something similar as well, but the feedback they had on their review of our services was that the communication that we provided to them through COVID, like right up front, how are you doing? What do you need? And staying in constant communication with the clients to make sure that if something's changing in their business, we're there to help them. I think that's been really effective. And hopefully we win some great references through COVID out of this.
Yeah, exactly. We've done some of the same things, but little extra benefit with if we're managing their computers, we actually just send out routine messages that just pop up on their computers and say, Bendix is going to be doing this tonight after hours when you're gone, and it just pops up on their screens. And so that's just been an extra thing that our customers have responded to pretty well.
Yeah, I like that, this world of automation that we're living in. And Ken, you had something?
Well, I was going to say it's interesting, because at the BTA event, we had a very similar conversation with dealers, and we had the Laura Blackman was there, a gentleman from Rico was in remote, and from Sharp, name slipped me, but anyway, and they were talking about, from the copier world, the hardware is a challenge. And there's also a challenge with supplies. It's particularly Konica got hit really bad. They had a fire in one of their factories, and so that caused some issues. So these are challenges that I'm sure probably will open up opportunities for people, because most of the time there's devices or printers anyway. So if you've got printing equipment in stock, I can see where that would open up some opportunities to replace equipment.
Yeah, I think I heard similar things from the OEMs that really the copiers or the large multifunctions were sort of impacted more than the smaller printers. Is that correct, or is that just hearsay?
I had a conversation with one of my old manufacturer's reps. He hasn't been my rep for 3 or 4 years now, and he's actually with a different brand. I don't necessarily want to say which one it is, but it's one of the big printer brands. And I said, "What are you doing?" He goes, "Nothing. I'm sitting at home because usually we have all this inventory in the nation." He goes, "We have a total of $50,000 of inventory in the entire United States. That's the manufacturer had that much." He's like, "So there's no promotions, there's no incentives. I can't go sell anything because there's nothing to sell."
Wow.
I'm not going to selling, going and visiting dealers just because.
Yeah, you can't deliver what you're promising, right? And that's amazing. And of course, we don't want to talk names, but is that someone that's selling larger equipment or the smaller devices?
Their entire lineup.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Wow.
They have A3 and A4, primarily A4, but they have A3 as well. It's one of the big 2 or 3 that you'd pull out of the air.
And that breaks my heart, right? And I guess that raised another thing, and I did write this down as well. Have the OEMs been, pretty forthcoming about where they're at and where their difficulties are? And no, so not really hearing that.
Not with us.
No. How about in Canada, Rob?
We've had the opposite in that case. We've had great communication on sort of inventory levels, right? And sort of bringing us ahead of time saying, "Hey, here's where we have good inventory. We're green. Here's where it's yellow and red, and where we're going to struggle." So it's helped us a lot. I think Canada's a lot smaller, Jeff.
Yeah, it's true.
Frankly, they've got the ability to do that. That's probably why. But so they've been able to support us pretty well. Although, Ken, I would say we're seeing that some of the A4 sort of floor standing devices, we're able to get those a little better or faster. Those enterprise level devices out to our customers faster than we are the larger A3 copier type equipment. We're seeing a little more constraint on that side of the business, and I hope it turns around. But we are seeing those are getting constrained.
Yeah, I agree with that comment. But even like our HP quota, we're supposed to sell X number of dollars by a certain point in 2021, and I'm like, you don't have anything to sell. So they extended that out another 6 months, and we'll see in a couple months if they're going to extend it out even further. Can't hold you to quotas if they don't have the hardware to give you to sell.
Yeah, there's an interesting one I never even thought of, was obviously with marketing development funds, MDF funds, and quotas for discounts, etc. Right? Wow. Yeah, that's a whole other kettle of fish, right? Well, in respect for everybody's time, I want to thank you very much. That gives me a much clearer picture, and it's fun to see the differences both in Canada and in the U.S. Of what's kind of going on here, and that it seems like that folks are actually doing much better than I think some people in the marketplace would give us credit for in this channel, right? So it sounds challenging, but it doesn't sound dire, and I, for one, am happy to hear that. And so, for other dealers out there in the marketplace that may be facing similar challenges, certainly we look forward to hearing about those from you, and also look forward to seeing you folks working together, right? And I know, Jeff, you're part of the MPSA. Rob, I'm sure you're part of some organizations as well, right? And the dealers coming together to work on that. That's some of the great stories that I've heard as well. And I really appreciate you guys coming together on this call to share a little bit of information with our audience. So thank you.
Thank you.
Happy to. Good to see everybody again.
Good to see you.
All right.
Well.
Take care, guys. Well, how fun is that, Ken? I just love the openness and the ability to share that we have in this channel. And I think we're in quite a unique field that way, right? I know that my wife is in the retail world, and they're not nearly as accommodating or, work together for these kind of things. So really feel truly blessed to be in the channel that we're in.
Well, I think that's one of the things we've seen is that there's a lot of dealers, especially where they're in non-competing markets, where they're sharing equipment, sharing supplies, doing what they can to help each other out. I think that we're going to see a lot of repurposed equipment, things that might have come off lease that are in good shape that'll show back up in the field just so that they can meet the needs of new customers, because it's hard to bring in new customers if you don't have anything to deliver for them when they come on board.
Yeah, I found it interesting hearing that, customers are open to the fact that they'll even take, alternative gear that they're used to, getting from their providers, right? And I think that some of that, obviously, I know that speaking with some of the leasing provider partners that we have, that they're actually extending some of the leases on existing equipment, and that they are looking at some options even for, refurbished gear, right? Like to make sure that they can satisfy some of those holes. So, but I'll tell you, the one thing that I really get excited about in this channel is seeing that people are coming up with solutions, that we're facing the challenges head on, and we are ready to win. So for everybody that tuned in today, can't thank you enough. Every Wednesday, you can join Ken and I at what time, Ken?
It's 11 o'clock Eastern.
You can set your
makes
clock
it
to it.
early on the West Coast.
Yeah.
Really early in Hawaii.
Yeah, and for any customers that might have stumbled upon this, if you're in Canada, especially in the Toronto area, Ontario, would definitely recommend that you check out SmartPrint. Some amazing people there and some great service. And certainly in the States, if you're looking for imaging and also cybersecurity and other technology services, you cannot go wrong with Bendix Imaging. So once again, great to have them on, and we'll see everybody next week.
See everybody next week.
Cheers, buddy.